The streak is over. We can celebrate, Braves fans. We are no longer making history on a nightly basis. The Braves win 2 in a row to break their streak of 18 consecutive win-loss games. And now, ready to break another streak, Cam.
Oh, Lord.
For the first time all year, the Braves could be over 500 when we're talking tomorrow. As they sit right now, like we said, Thanos, perfectly balanced. 54 and 54. I actually think I could be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure they're 500 at home and 500 on the road too.
So they're evenly split.
Like just perfectly balanced. The Braves 500. They get a big win last night. We're trailing 3-0 real early in that game, but you get a home run from Soler and Duvall, and then a huge pinch hit and a bunch of just a calamity of errors from the Cardinals in the outfield, and the Braves win the game last night 7-4. And so now 2.5 back from the Mets, who are currently playing right now and are down 1-0 in Miami. So you have a chance to enter the game tonight just 2 games back of the Mets, with a chance to make it 1.5 games back of the Mets, and as I mentioned, get to over 500 for the first time this season. Touki Toussaint is on the mound for the Atlanta Braves. Cam, what's your gut telling you? Your gut hasn't been good to you the last few picks.
I'm fine until you said the over 500. I think you jinxed them. Yesterday you didn't say anything. They won. So that right there.
So now you're gonna
yesterday.
put it on me.
Yes, I'm putting it on you. Yes, I am. Because yesterday they won. You didn't say anything. Today you said something. So I'm predicting a loss today. Hopefully I'm wrong. They could go over 500, and if they go over 500, they may convince me and start a little streak. But I know the Phillies and the Mets, they have a series coming up. So either way, depending on how that series go, you're probably still trailing. But I don't know who you root for in that series, but you just need to keep winning.
Yeah, it's amazing. The Braves right now 54 and 54, 2.5 games back, but they're 27 and 27 at home, 27 and 27 on the road. But I think if you take a step back, though, and look at it and say, and you told Braves fans, hey, you're going to lose Ronald Acuna, Marcell Ozuna is going to be arrested and not play for you for a majority of the season. Freddie Freeman is going to get off to a really slow start, and you're going to lose your Silver Slugger and Travis d'Arnaud, your starting catcher, and have to go through a few catchers. Oh, and by the way, Christian Pache is going to get hurt and never really live up to the hype. I think if you told Braves fans all of those things at the beginning of the year, and then you said, but you'll be 500 and just 2.5 games out, everyone's taking that. I think it's just been such like a roller coaster of a season where you have a really good team at the start of the year that just couldn't get it going. And now you have a really injured team, a bunch of new faces, and they've started to pick up the slack a little bit. And now you're starting to see this team start to gel. I think most Braves fans, if you gave them that scenario at the beginning of the year, would be like, okay, I'll take that.
Yeah, I mean, any fan, if you lose, if you're missing a whole bunch of players, key players, some of your best players, of course you take being at 500, 2 games behind the division leader. But I mean, it's time for them to hit a hot streak. They've played, long enough with this win-loss. They broke the streak last night, great. But this is their prime. It's a prime moment for them to get on a hot streak, take the division lead. I mean, these next 10 to 15 games or so are in their favor. If you want to be honest, they're in their favor. So now you have to take advantage of this and, see if you can compete. See if you can compete for this division lead.
I will say this. I know last night you get the 7 runs, and the night before that you got 6. I still don't understand why Joc Pederson isn't starting. I know Guillermo Heredia, you're doing the lefty-righty matchups, and Joc Pederson historically does not hit lefties very well, and almost all of Heredia's doubles have come off of lefties, and he got another one last night, but outside of that was his only hit in the game. Joc Pederson comes in, and his one at bat, I guess because of the errors, you don't count them all, but brings in 3 runs. I just feel like you got to play going down the stretch. You have to play your best players regardless of matchups. I like Guillermo Heredia. He's done a really good job filling in for the Braves. Well, you've had a lot of injured players, but right now I'm going to roll out with Duvall, Pederson, and Soler until it doesn't work.
I've always been one where I'm not a situational guy. Whoever's hot, whoever's producing at the moment, that's who you play. I don't like situational ball in general. It doesn't matter what sport, football, baseball, basketball, whatever it is. If that guy's producing, keep him on the field until something goes wrong. And even when something goes wrong, you stick with him, because that's what you do when you have good players, great players, and you're trying to build a tradition, a good franchise. And just taking somebody out because of situational ball, but they're producing, I just don't agree with that.
And again, Heredia has been a good fill-in player, but I think you got to play Peterson in that situation. He's, I think, far and away the best outfielder on your team right now, just with all the injuries that you've had to deal with. I mean, I guess Duvall could come in as a close second. I mean, I think Peterson and Duvall have to be in the lineup pretty much every night going forward, with Heredia, I guess, spot starting. I'll say this: he's played really well. Heredia has played really well, and he plays a good center field. But I feel like Jock Peterson's bat has to be in the lineup. It's such a different lineup than it was 2 weeks ago now, with Duvall, Peterson, and Solaire's bats in the lineup. Put them all together, it doesn't equal Ronald Acuna. Like, yeah. I get that. But it's a whole lot better than Almonte and Heredia.
It's a supplement.
I mean,
a good substitute.
Almonte, Heredia, and Adrianza, right? It beats the hell out of that. So you got to play Peterson going forward. You do have Touki Toussaint on the mound tonight. He had two really good starts prior to his last outing. Hopefully we can see a little bit more of what we saw from Touki in AAA, where he was almost unhittable. And then those first two starts, I think it was just kind of one of those things, Cam, where he was due to have a bad outing. Get that bad outing out of the way. Touki Toussaint, I think, a perfect position to go ahead and get that dub for the Braves tonight. Again, that one 8-15 tonight. Braves 54-54 on the year. The Cardinals now 53-54. The Cardinals will send out Wade LeBlanc tonight. He's got a 3.15 ERA on the year, but just 34 innings pitched. Tuki's coming in with a 4.76 ERA. But again, bad outing the time before, but two good outings prior to that. Really looking forward to seeing Touki get back on the bump tonight. We're going to take a quick break here. We'll come back. We have McLean Baxley from the AJC coming up a little bit later. Going to talk some Atlanta Falcons football with him. When we come back, we'll dive into the SEC. Who has the best arsenal in the SEC? Top to bottom, weapons loaded out. Who has the best arsenal in the SEC? We'll dive into it when we come back right here on Second Down. Second Down on ESPN Radio is presented to you by the Uniform Source, 2 different locations in Savannah that take care of all of your uniform needs. Cam, before we dive into the college football talk, I did want to give you a chance to gloat a little bit because we've had a lot of free agency news out there. Obviously, the Hawks locking up their young core in Trae Young and John Collins, but LeBron James has been famous for keeping the banana boat together, and he's doing his best. But for the first time ever, we're going to get to see LeBron James with Carmelo Anthony in Los Angeles. And also, Russell Westbrook added a few days ago as well. So, I mean, as a Lakers fan, that's a lot of talent. Like, I'll say this. That lineup would have been live in like 2015, like unstoppable. Right now, I don't know how good it's going to be. Like, I feel like with Melo and Russell Westbrook recently, you're lucky if you get like 75% of the games out of them with how they've dealt with injury. But I mean, you got to be excited if you're a Lakers fan, right?
Oh yeah, I'm super excited. Though Melo is actually not the acquisition I was excited for. Kendrick Nunn, Malik Monk, getting those 2 guys for cheap coming off the bench. They both average like 15 and 12 points a game, respectfully. And then bringing back THT, Taylor Horton Tucker. It's going to be an exciting season. We're all hoping for Brooklyn and the Lakers. I think Brooklyn is still the favorite. You have 3 of the best scorers ever in their prime on one team. But I love what we did. And, Lake Show, man, I love the Lakers. I hope we can win it all one more time. I think this is our last chance. We went all in. So I love the moves. And let's try to get Melo a ring and Bron this 5th ring.
So a whole lot of bragging going to be going on when Melo puts up his first 30-point game there with the Lakers.
A whole lot.
Does Carmelo play the entire season with the Lakers?
Of course. Yeah, and I think Westbrook.
Is he starting or is he like the 6th man coming off the bench?
I hope he's the 6th man. We need some of that energy off the bench, playing with some of those young guys, bring Melo off the bench. But I predict Melo to play 70-plus games. I predict Westbrook to play 70-plus games. Anthony Davis and LeBron probably 70. Anthony Davis about 65 to 70.
It is cool, though, because if you buy tickets to the Lakers game and they start doing the load management thing, at least you're going to get to see like 2 out of those 4 every night.
Yeah.
And the other 2 can just take the night off. It'll be fine.
Yeah, it's going to be cool. I'm happy. It's going to be really, really cool to see Melo. Who would ever thought Melo in the Lakers jersey?
All right, so flipping over to college football here, we're getting real close to the kickoff. We're under 30 days to Georgia and Clemson. We're even closer to that than the kickoff to college football, under 25 days until we get to that. And looking at the SEC, so much talent to replace, right? Just look at the top of the last few drafts and all the wide receivers and tight ends and quarterbacks and offensive linemen that have been drafted, but so much talent coming back in 2021. And I feel like we've missed talking about and previewing how much talent is coming back in college football because we've been stuck on, and for good reason, a lot of the macro stories, right? A lot of the changing of college athletics as we know it stories, right? We've been talking NIL. We've been talking Texas and Oklahoma joining the SEC. We've been talking the transfer rule changes abound in the NCAA, right? I feel like we've missed out on looking. And so I don't want us to get to week 1 of the college football season and be like, oh, snap, I don't know any of these players, right? And so we're going to go through and we're going to talk about who we feel like has the best arsenal of weapons in the SEC. Now, how do you define arsenal? Running backs, wide receivers, tight end, athletes.
Okay.
So I feel like the quarterback has to be the trigger man. Offensive line obviously makes everything go. But when I think arsenal, I think about the weapons that a offensive coordinator has to play with. Okay. And so top of your mind, just thinking, who has the best? Just real quick. I said top of your mind.
Top of my mind, I would go Georgia.
I think a lot of people would.
I would go
right because you just start with the wide receivers, right? You have Jermaine Burton. You do lose George Pickens, but you have Jermaine Burton. Kearis Jackson's coming back. You could get Dominic Blaylock back. You have Arian Smith, who's a burner out there. A.D. Mitchell made a lot of plays in the spring game. So you have a ton of wide receiver depth, right? You go out and you get an Eric Gilbert from LSU, who Ed Orgeron said at SEC Media Days he's going to be an All-American and a first-round pick. Ooh. That's the coach for the team he just left, saying, yeah, no, that guy's that good. He's going to be an All-American, and then he's going to be a first-round pick. He's sliding into one of those wide receiver spots. I know a lot of people have been saying he's just going to fill in George Pickens' role. I don't know if we can just define where he's going to play. I think he's his own player, and Todd Monk is going to have some fun figuring out where he's placing him. Go to the running backs.
Mhm.
You have we'll start with Zamir White. I don't know that he's going to be the guy by the end, but you have Zamir White, James Cook, Kenny McIntosh, all those guys that you can hand the football off to. Kendall Milton, right? Ton of running back depth. And then Darnell Washington, John Fitzpatrick, a ton of depth at the tight end position as well. I think Darnell Washington, we keep talking about all these other guys. I think he might be the one who's in for the biggest jump. Like he's going to become, I think, a household name in college football by the end of the season. So Georgia does have a ton of talent, and they might have the best arsenal. But I want to go through some other ones and get your opinion, because I think we're underranking a few of them. So I'm going to start with a few of the teams who I think will surprise some people with how good of weapons they have on their lineup. And the one I want to start with is Arkansas.
Okay.
I know when we think Arkansas, we don't think putting up 40, 50 points a game, and that still might not be the case. KJ Jefferson, I think it's yet to be seen if he can be the guy, right? Felipe Franks last year was their guy. He got injured a few times. KJ Jefferson had to come in, and the offense kind of stalled a little bit for them. But you have Treylon Burks to start off with, who's your number one wide receiver. And he very well might be the first wide receiver off the board in the NFL draft. Ooh. And I don't think he gets the love that he deserves because he plays for Arkansas. But if you follow a lot of these draft profiles, PFF, Draft Network, they all love Treylon Burks. Okay. So you start off with him. Traylon Smith is their starting running back coming off a 700-yard year. Mm-hmm. And I think really found his role towards the end of the season. You also have Trey Knox playing wide receiver, Devon Warren as well. And then at tight end, the younger brother of one Hunter Henry, Hudson Henry, who's all of 6'5", 255 pounds. So I think Arkansas has a relatively underrated skill group there. Kentucky Wildcats are the next up on my list. I mean, Chris Rodriguez is the name everyone knows playing running back, right? Yeah. And a lot of people, I think BJ included, thinks he might be fighting with Tank Bigsby for that best running back in the SEC role. But also at wide receiver, right? You have Keaton Upshaw, and you go out and get a Wan'Dale Robinson to come in as a transfer who apparently is supposed to be all-world. We've yet to see. But add all that onto the tap, you have Josh Ali at wide receiver as well for the Kentucky Wildcats. I think they have a relatively underrated skill group as well, quote-unquote, arsenal. Now, do I think they have the best in the SEC? No, but don't be surprised when you start saying, like, wait, Kentucky's supposed to score 14 points a game. Arkansas is supposed to get beat 40-13. Why am I looking at 35, 38 points a game out of these teams? They have some dudes on offense. I think for both of those teams, Kentucky and Arkansas, it's going to come down to how the quarterbacks perform. Because Kentucky, at least according to Cole Kubelik, has the best offensive line in the SEC. Arkansas, think about who their head coach is. It's Sam Pittman. They're going to have a competitive offensive line. They have the skill guys. It's going to come down to that trigger man, KJ Jefferson for Arkansas, and it looks like it might be Will Levis for Kentucky. I know Joey Gatewood transferred in from Auburn, but I think it's going to be Levis at Kentucky. It's going to come down to those guys. And so I think both of those offenses will be really good this year. KJ Jefferson has a cannon for an arm, so watch out for those teams. But let's talk about the actual contenders. We mentioned Georgia up there, and I think if you tell me Georgia has the best arsenal in the SEC, I'm probably not going to argue with you too hard. But here's a couple of contenders. Texas A&M.
Okay.
We've heard about the defense. Let's talk about the things that we're worried about. We're worried about the quarterback, and we're worried about 4 brand new starters on the offensive line.
Yep.
Now, coaching staff out of Texas A&M has told us they like what they've seen from the offensive line, but what coach is going to come out and be like, our offensive line sucks? It's bad. Like, we don't stand a chance. Like, for the most part, you're either going to hear we got work to do on the offensive line, or, hey, we really like what we're seeing from our young guys on the offensive line. I'll take that back. If you have a senior-laden offensive line that's supposed to be good and they're not performing, sometimes you will hear a coach come out and say our offensive line sucks.
Because it's seniors.
And because you're trying to send a message to your guys. But for the most part, coaches are going to be like, hey, it's a work in progress. We're getting better every day. Don't know what we're going to see out of the quarterback play at Texas A&M. We don't know what we're going to see out of the offensive line play. I do know that they probably have the most talented backfield in the SEC. Isaiah Spiller and then Ainias Smith. And if you're looking for like a role for Ainias Smith, think Percy Harvin.
That's a lot of praise.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's that good, but I'm saying he's going to fill that role. He might be that good.
Whew.
And Percy Harvin is one of the best to ever do it, but
Yeah.
he's going to fill that role. He's going to play slot. You're going to send him in motion on jet sweeps, and they're going to just put him in the backfield and handle the football because he's that electric with the ball in his hands. And then, in my opinion, they have the best tight end in the SEC in Jalen Weidermeyer. And when you say he's an SEC tight end, he's an SEC tight end. He's an inline blocker. He'll go on and he'll take on your defensive end, but he'll also beat linebackers and safeties in one-on-one. So in a Jimbo Fisher offense, that kind of guy can be really dangerous. We've seen it before. We've seen it for a couple of years now. Weidermeyer is a really good tight end. I know there's some guys that have the name recognition around him. We just talked about Darnell Washington. Is he going to be that guy? Because we've already seen Jalen Weidermeyer be that guy. Like, go back and watch the Texas A&M Alabama game from last year. He was eating them alive over the middle.
It was a closer game than the score indicated.
And I know we've seen Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin said this before. He said when he was with Alabama, he said we'd come out and we knew we were going to beat every other team we played for the most part because we were just physically superior to them. Jalen Weidermeyer looks like one of those guys.
Okay.
Like, he's that built. He's an NFL tight end already. I think he's going to be a big part of what what Texas A&M has coming up in their offensive plans. Because, look, you got a sophomore or a freshman quarterback starting for you. Who's their best friend?
Offensive line, yeah.
And a really good tight end. Really good tight end. So I think Weidermeyer's in for a big season. Final contender, I'd say here, because, listen, Tennessee is going to be a rough year. South Carolina is going to be a rough year. Auburn, you have Tank Bigsby and Sean Shivers, don't have a whole lot going for you at wide receiver and tight end. So Ole Miss, you have a hell of a quarterback. You got a good running back. I don't know what you have at wide receiver and tight end right now. Same goes for Mississippi State. I think you found your quarterback. Don't know what you have at running back, wide receiver right now. There's some names, but depth-wise, you are not competing with the top of the SEC when it comes to skill guys. I think the number one contender to Georgia in terms of skill guys, and which is unbelievable with how much they have lost, it's Alabama.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, of course.
But we say of course, but you lost your top two wide receivers, your number one running back and your quarterback, and a couple guys off the offensive line.
Think about it. It happened the year before, too.
And you just say, of course, but it's like, is it of course? I think it is. But what's funny is I don't think it's going to be with the wide receivers this year. I do think the wide receivers are really good. I think John Mechie's one of the top three, if not the number one wide receiver in the SEC.
They have a freshman that might be better than him.
Yeah,
if you watch the spring.
But right now, I mean, John Mechie playing behind Devonta Smith, Jalen Waddle, had almost 1,000 yards receiving last year.
Crazy. Yep.
As the third option, right? And then you also have Slade Bolden coming back, who's just kind of that. He's bigger, but he kind of plays that Julian Edelman kind of role where it's, I'm going to get open in the middle no matter what. And he's a good football player. Slade Bolden's going to be good as well. And then at tight end, Jaleel Billingsley is really good.
Yes.
But also a couple other guys from this tight end position that they have. Cameron Lotu, 6'5", 250 pounds. Caden Clark, 6'4", 258 pounds. Major Tennyson, 6'5", 252 pounds. Like,
grown men.
Dude, they have like 4 or 5 tight ends that are like a trip to McDonald's away from being left tackle. So like they have some dudes at that tight end position. And then Brian Robinson's coming back for his senior year. I think he's in for a really big season. Like, listen, just because you weren't good enough to get on the field behind Najee Smith doesn't mean you weren't even the second best running back in the country. He was just that much better. Or Najee Harris, excuse me. He was just that much better. So I think old Brian Robinson could be in for a big year. And, of course, it's Alabama, so they have like 5 or 6 5-star running backs just sitting behind me. Trey Sanders was a 5-star. He's a guy who could be in for a lot of carries coming up this year. So Alabama, I think, is the top contender. But I think even with the loss of George Pickens, you can say Georgia probably has the number one arsenal. I say Eric Gilbert. Like, it was probably even with Alabama, and then you get Eric Gilbert. That probably puts you over the top. Because I think Jermaine Burton's going to be really good. Kyrus Jackson's been a great possession receiver. And then I think Arian Smith is the guy you need to watch out for because he's kind of that Henry Ruggs style mold where you pay attention to everyone else, right? You have Jermaine Burton on the outside, Eric Gilbert, Darnell Washington's lined up, and then you split a running back out. You have everybody else accounted for, but then you have a guy who actually has like legitimate Olympic track speed over the middle. so you can count for everyone else. But when he gets one-on-one with the safety, if he gets even with the safety, it's over. So right now, I'd give the edge to Georgia, but Alabama and Texas A&M are right there.
I mean, respectfully, it's just Alabama. I mean, I give the edge to Georgia because Eric Gilbert came in, but Alabama is Alabama. They have a nice O line to it. Evan Neal coming back and stuff like that.
Evan Neal might be the best player in college football.
Yeah, he's going to be a top 5 pick in the draft, depending on how the teams balance out. But yeah, they're going to be a solid team.
6'7", 360 pounds.
Yeah, that's scary.
That's a lot of dude.
That's scary. That's a lot of dude. And like you said, if you're at Alabama, if you're the second or third string at Alabama, you're the first string at every other school in the country, outside of maybe Georgia, Clemson, and Ohio State. You still might go there and start. Yeah. So they're deep. They're ready.
I'm excited.
You know it.
Again, we're less than a month away from the kickoff to college football, but there is football happening this week. Actually, tonight, Cam. We have football tonight, the Hall of Fame game.
Tonight. Cowboys and Cowgirls.
So starting tonight, until the Super Bowl, we have football every week.
Love it.
Every week. So we've made it. Football is back. We're going to come back, catch up with McLean Baxley from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. He's been out at Falcons training camp. We'll get the latest news from the Falcons there in Flowery Branch when we come back right here on ESPN Radio. Second Down on ESPN Radio is presented to you by the Uniform Source. Christian Gokel alongside Cam Urshery here. Glad to have you hanging out with us on a Thursday afternoon. A lot of news coming out of Flowery Branch. Running back battle starting to take shape. Some highlight reel catches from Kyle Pitts, the Atlanta Falcons' number 4 overall pick. And then really kind of getting our first look at what this defense could look like under Dean Pease. Joining us now from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, good friend of the show, McLean Baxley. McLean, what's going on, man?
Nothing much, just trying to recover from the heat of training camp.
Man, we've just had nothing but rainstorms down here today. Was it a burner up in Atlanta?
It was about 84 degrees at 10 a.m. So yeah, it's been still good to be in the AC.
I was gonna say 84 degrees sounds like a cool fall day down here right now. So I wouldn't be complaining too much, but just bird's eye view, man. You've been out there covering the Falcons at Flowery Branch. What have been the biggest storylines in your mind that have started to develop?
Obviously the big storyline is Kyle Pitts, who's just come on and we knew he was going to be a good guy, but I mean, it seems like every practice, I've been out this is my 4th practice being out there, and every practice he's given more responsibility. He's moving up in the depth chart beyond just being a tight end. He was today. Calvin Ridley was out for a rest day today, and Pitts was in there as the number 2 receiver. Working with Matt Ryan and AJ McCarron. So that's one of the big things. Just seeing how important they're using him, and how much they're using him, and how important he's been to this club. Just as he's 7 or 8 months less than that with the team. So he's been exciting to watch. And then, like you said, the defensive line is another area that a lot of attention on. A lot of experience, and as well as new guys that are kind of gelling in and getting used to being around Dean Pease and seeing what he can do.
McLean, we know how historically bad this defense has been this past couple of years. What's the storylines behind this defense? Is there any improvements out there? Who's out there showing what they could do, and who's just producing the best?
Deion Jones is a guy that he's been pretty good, and we talked to him yesterday, and he's improved every day. It seems like he's kind of leading there in the secondary. He's inside linebacker, but he's able to play anywhere. In Pease defense, it's a very multiple defense, so he's got to play. Linebackers will play up, they'll rush the quarterback, they'll also play in coverage. So kind of that free form, and Jones has done well with that. Also, Richie Grant, another rookie, is coming in and really challenging. He's been challenging Ridley. He's been challenging, Russell Gage, some of the best receivers that the Falcons have, and he's, been taking them on and holding his own. So there's a lot of hope around Grant. But he's also, it's funny today, earlier in practice, earlier in practice, he had a big pass breakup on Pitts, and got up and talking smack, and then a little bit later he got burned in a one-on-one. So the highs and lows of being rookie, but there are signs that they've improved, but I think all of it's going to rely on those older guys kind of stepping up and changing the narrative that's been around in the past couple of years.
I find it interesting that we haven't really discussed it very much at any level, but obviously Arthur Smith came in with the experience from the Tennessee Titans and really flipping a culture up there, turning them to one of the more prolific offenses in the NFL, and all of a sudden you have him as your head coach. And you have Matt Ryan, you have Kyle Pitts, Calvin Ridley, a ton of other talent on this offense, but we haven't really discussed what it could look like. I know training camp can be pretty vanilla, but can you give us a sense of what kind of identity he's trying to establish with this personnel?
I think the biggest thing that I've noticed is how he runs it kind of, I don't want to say like a military camp, but he is running it to a T. We've seen several times where guys false start or jump offside, they're running laps. They're all, he's not, and he's also shown that he has to prove himself. Grady Jarrett talked about last week about how though he's a 2-time Pro Bowler, he's still gonna come in and have to prove his thing. And I think that's the same for everything. Obviously, Matt Ryan is the number 1 quarterback, and Calvin Ridley is gonna play a lot. Mike Davis, probably RB1, but for the most part, a lot of these guys are feeling they have to prove themselves to the new coaching staff, to Arthur Smith, and that kind of deal. And as far as the offense goes, like you said, there are weapons there, and I think it's going to be more kind of gelling with what the talents that are there, utilizing them best, and also with Arthur Smith's experience in Tennessee and then past stops and making the most of what's on the roster.
And that's kind of what I was going to ask you is just the vibe around training camp. Because I know for a long time, the past couple of coaches with the Falcons, Dan Quinn and Mike Smith, kind of got criticized because it seemed like it was, I don't want to say lazy, but that he laid off of the veterans and there wasn't that much intensity in training camps and practices. I know Dan Quinn had the 30 plus, or no, excuse me, Mike Smith had like the 30 and over club where a lot of times those guys didn't have to practice if they had been in the league for a certain amount of time. What has been the vibe around this training camp? Because I know a lot of Falcons fans got sick of Dan Quinn's the coach bro mentality and all the slogans. That stuff works when you're 11-5, not quite as much when you're 5-11.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is accountability. I mean, he's like you said, guy misses the ball or gets a false start or jumps outside, they're running laps or they're doing push-ups, and whether you're a rookie or a 20-year vet. So I mean, it's very everyone's accountable, and also, I mean, they're running it like a lot of very very intently. There's no lackadaisical out there. I don't think every play is earned. Whether it's a quick little drill, with the receivers or a 7-on-7 situation or 11-on-11 situation. So I mean, everything's with purpose. There are water breaks every 30-45 minutes, but I mean, for the most part, they are running it like a game situation. There's been a lot of yelling from the assistant coaches and in the form of yelling. They're not yelling to yell, I guess, but a lot of teaching and constructive criticism being thrown out. But I mean, but you're also still having fun. You guys are still competing and enjoying themselves. There's still trash talking being between DBs and receivers and that like. But yeah, I mean, it definitely seems, and what we've heard from players and when I talk about other media, it definitely seems like a new culture starting to shape up.
McClain, outside of the big name guys like Matt, Kyle Pitts, those guys, who is a guy we need to keep our eyes out for this upcoming season?
Hayden Hurst, he's now tight end. He's been a couple of years now, and he might fall into that star category. But I mean, he is the guy that every rep that he's taken, he is giving it his all. He's definitely improved speed and strength this offseason. He's gotten a little I don't know if lighter is the right word, but he's more fit this year, and he looks like a guy that is going to be relied on a lot. Obviously, you got Kyle Pitts out there, the new toy, but I mean, Hayden Hurst has proved himself in the past years, and he's just gotten better in the offseason, I feel like, and whether it's blocking or receiving or doing what he needs, getting open. I mean, he's done a lot of work, as cutting and finding space, and he's one guy to watch. And then also, Mike Davis, and a newer guy. He's kind of older, but his pass catching ability has been really good to watch this past couple weeks. So those two guys on offense that I've really been impressed with.
McClain, I know, again, we're catching McClain Baxley with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution up at Flowery Branch covering Falcons training camp. Biggest storyline really heading into this year is COVID-19, and the NFL and the NFLPA have been working together to try to enforce some guidelines going into the season. And obviously, life is easier for vaccinated players right now. It's kind of a two-part question. Do we know what the percentage is with the Atlanta Falcons players, and what have been some of the reactions from players as the NFLPA has started to announce some of these restrictions?
Yeah, so I think the last number we heard was 90 to 95%. I mean, when I look out there, there's 4 or 5 guys that are having to wear masks still for not being vaccinated. But I mean, for the most part, they're very understanding and ready to get kind of back to normal while still being safe. Arthur Smith was asked today about there was a slight COVID outbreak a few weeks ago. There were several Falcons that were out, up to 5 players, but now there's just 2 on the COVID reserve list. And so, he was saying now they're doing everything they can to limit that and get back to a normal environment. So I think for the most part, players and coaches alike are very understanding and willing to work with the new precautions and like I said, return back to normal. So I think that's something that was missing last year, and especially for rookies or newer guys, they want to get back to that NFL style that they've never actually been able to experience.
And has he had conversations? I know we saw Ron Rivera with the Washington football team have conversations with his guys that this could be like just maybe not even if you're unvaccinated getting vaccinated, but making sure if you're unvaccinated, you're taking the proper precautions, that it can honestly be advantage if you're handling this situation right, because I know the Washington football team, they would have been missing 4 or 5 starters if the season had started last week. What have the conversations been like about that with the Falcons?
Yeah, Arthur Blank said last week that he wishes he wishes everybody, whether they're in football or not, would get vaccinated. I mean, I think it's a very, from the top, and Arthur Blank, obviously the owner and president. I mean, I think it's very, top down. People want to get vaccinated, stay safe, and for the betterment of both life away from football, when they're around their families, when they're around fans and just everyday living, and also for the team. We saw it often last season, both in college and NFL game. Guys would be out for contact tracing or for having the disease themselves. So anything they can do to prevent that is something that coaches and higher ups and players themselves are definitely looking forward to.
McLean, finally here before we let you go, man, how many times either writing or talking about him have you mixed up Arthur Blank and Arthur Smith?
I've been pretty fortunate. I have not. Now some of the players, they'll just be like Arthur this, Arthur that, and now we've been like, we as media have to kind of decipher, is that he's talking about Arthur Smith or talking about Arthur Blank. And then last week when we talked with Arthur Blank on opening day last Thursday, one of the PR people said that like Arthur's on his way, or Mr. Blank's on his way, and so it's a fun little game that they'll have to play. But knock on wood, I have not mixed up the two.
McLean Baxley, Atlanta Journal-Constitution, kind enough to take some time with us today. McLean, tell the people out there where they can follow along and read your latest.
Yeah, it's going to be on Twitter at McLean Baxley, McClainBaxley. I got a few more weeks here at the AJC, and then moving on to Athens. So, you definitely stay tuned and enjoy the ride.
Absolutely. McLean Baxley, Atlanta Journal-Constitution, joining us here on Second Down. McLean, always appreciate it, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys.
There you got me. Cam says he's running. Arthur Smith not playing around. That was one of the biggest things that drove me crazy about Dan Quinn. And listen, I understand he went to a Super Bowl. I understand they won a bunch of playoff games. But the in brotherhood and the coach bro mentality stuff, like I said, that stuff works when you're 11-5 and you're 12-4. But when you're losing back to back seasons and it's bad,
yeah,
that stuff can start to wear on you a little bit. It's kind of a breath of fresh air that Arthur Smith coming in. You bring in Dean Pease, who's just an old school football guy, one of the best defensive minds in football. But Arthur Smith is a guy who, go watch the Titans offense the last few years. It's in your face kind of football. It's kind of a breath of fresh air to have that kind of mentality coming into Flowery Branch with these Falcons.
Yeah, that's what we need. We've been soft for about a decade. Mike Smith, good coach for a good little minute, but we've always been soft, had kind of on the nice coach side, brotherhood and just being nice. I'm gonna work with you. We need a hard head coach, and I'm glad Arthur Smith is here. Hopefully, we play some ground and pound, get in your face, mean football. We need that in Atlanta. So
I know.
I'm prepared.
And some of the videos I've been watching, a lot of big play actions with Matt Ryan turning around, finding. I think Calvin Ridley caught a nice slant pass the other day where, again, Matt Ryan, amazing at play action. We saw it in the Kyle Shanahan offense. I don't understand why they haven't used that more on first and second down the past few years. But, again, it's a new era. We have one of the best play callers in the NFL. The Falcons now. Really excited to watch this team. Preseason coming up soon. I mean, you'll have a chance to see the Falcons down in our neck of the woods when they play the Jaguars in the preseason as well. So really fun and looking forward to that coming up. So much more to get to. We'll dive into more here on Second Down when we come back. Oh, go ahead. Here, go ahead. All right, Cam, you can make fun of me. I said preseason with the Dolphins. Regulars or with the Jaguars. See, I can't get it right. Regular season with the Jaguars coming up November 28th, week 12 for the Atlanta Falcons. We'll be down in Jacksonville. So you can see Matty Ice going head-to-head against the fair-haired Trevor Lawrence.
It's going to be awesome.
Is it? Or could that be a matchup of like of two teams that are what? Week 12, so currently like if they're lucky, both 6-6?
It could be good or bad. We could be on the bright side where we're 6-6 or a little bit above 500, or we could be really bad. We're like 3-9, and we're like, okay, time to wrap it up this year, guys. Let's just tank and get a quarterback. So,
wow, tank and get a quarterback. Cam's already ready to get rid of Matt Ryan.
No. I want Matt Ryan to succeed. I want us to have a successful year. I think we can make a wild card spot. It's not.
It's gonna be tough.
It's going to be tough. I mean, of course, but if you look at our schedule, I think it's a decent schedule. It's not hard. Of course, no schedule in a professional league is easy, but it's a good schedule. The first game of the season is against the Eagles. They're clearly dysfunctional right now. I'm Falcons. I'm an Atlantean. I hope we could go at least 9-8, 10-7.
Yeah, nowhere else can you get this kind of non-biased opinions and just clear, concise breakdowns. Cam, why are they going to win? Because I want them to.
Yeah, because I want them to. I can't tell you the defense is going to be great this year. I can't tell you what the offense will do. I just know the offense will be good, but the defense.
The one thing you do know is you'll be supporting them.
Oh, of course.
You can't get this kind of breakdown anywhere else.
Nowhere else but here.
As he wears his Atlanta hat with a heart on it.
Hey, I got enough hearts for Atlanta, man. I love Atlanta.
The homerism is real, but it will be cool for a lot of Atlanta Falcons fans living in South Georgia to get a chance to just travel down the road to Jacksonville and see the Falcons. Beats the hell out of that I-16 ride up to Macon into Atlanta, because that gets real lonely real fast. But again, that one coming up week 12. Got a big show coming up today on 3 and Out. We'll catch up with Josh Pate of 247.com, host of the Late Kick with Josh Pate. Going to talk some college football with him. Also get a Georgia Tech preview coming up as well on 3 and Out. Listen, the Yellow Jackets have a good football team. They have a hell of a schedule in front of them. It could be a rough year for old Jeff Collins and the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. So we'll talk some Georgia Tech football coming up as well. And then later on tonight, we have the Braves at the Cardinals looking for the sweep. And I'm going to say it, looking to be over 500 for the first time this season.
They will lose tonight.
Tukey on the mound for the Atlanta Braves. Prior to his last start, where he only goes 3 innings, he had 2 phenomenal outings. So looking for more of that out of Tukey coming up tonight. Maybe a little Adam Duvall bomb, a little free bomb. We'll be good to go. So hopefully we're coming back talking to you guys tomorrow about the Atlanta Braves being over 500 for the first time all season. 3 and Out coming up next.